said how welcome they would be in Keeper. Then the brown hull would beach on the sand, to be carved over the treasure. Horses and war gear, the curved prow motioned, the mast stood high above Hrothgar's riches in the Lord's boat.
Yeah, you,
The guard who had watched the boat was given the sword with the gold fittings, and in future days, that present would make him a respected man at his place on the mid-beach bench. Then the keel plunged and shook in the sea, and they sailed from Denmark.
all right, go back to line 1893. The Coast Guard is the guy that was protecting his boat. Ladies, I still don't have your attention. You need to focus. It says in 1893, it says, his salute this time from the top of the hill was far from unmannerly, which means what?
It was very.
It was mannerly. So what device is that?
Latodes.
Latodes. All right, that's gonna be on the test.
Which
next
one?
week.
What part in the?
Far from unmannerly. If it's far from unmannerly, that means it's mannerly. And that's what Latodes do.
It is.
All right, so they are now in the water, headed home, so we'll go to, Aiden. Did you read?
You want me to read that?
Yes.
Is it right away?
Yep.
Okay. Right away, the mast was rigged with its sea shot. Sail ropes were tightened, timbers drove, and stiff winds kept the wing crosser skimming ahead. As she beat forward, the foamy night was sweet and buoyant. A last crowd loping over currents, until finally the beats caught sight of the coastline from familiar boats. The keel reared up, wind lifted it home, it came along.
All right, they're home. That's all it took. That one little stanza, they went from Denmark to Geatland. This is in this transition period. There's got to be some feasting, there's got to be some gift giving, there's got to be some tale telling. He's got to tell everybody what he just did, and so that's got to happen before as we transition to the last part of the book. So we'll go to man.
The harbor guard came hurrying out to the rolling water. He had watched the offing long and hard, on the lookout for those friends. When the anchors, cables, he moored their craft right where it had beached, in case a backwash might catch the hull and carried it away. When he ordered the prince's treasure trove to be carried ashore, it was a short step from there to where
Rethel.
what? Brethel? Okay. Brethel's son and heir, Hygelac the gold giver, gives his home on a secure cliff in the company of retainers.
So their first stop is gonna be the king, and they're gonna have all those things I just mentioned, a feast, gift giving, and then storytelling. You know what the offing is? He says, they had watched the offing. Have any idea what that is?
Like them coming off the boat?
No?
Oh,
Like the-
Yeah.
the horizon.
Yes, how did you know that?
I had heard the word for pretty long time ago.
If you stand at the beach and you look as far as you can look, the horizon, that's the offing. It can be used other ways, but it's a nautical term. I'm impressed. I didn't know what that was, so I looked it up several years ago. All right, we'll go to over here. Great.
The building was magnificent, King majestic, ensconced in his hall, and all the hides, his queen.
Okay, circle that name, Hyjid, H-Y. We're gonna look at two queens here, in the next couple pages. One is, Hygelac's queen. I guess that would make her Beowulf's aunt. So this is how, but look what it says about her. It doesn't say much, but it says a lot at the same time. It doesn't say it in a lot of words, but the words they use say a lot. So read that.
His queen was young, few short years at court, her mind was thoughtful and her manners sure. Harith's daughter behaved generously and stinted nothing when she distributed bounty to the Geats.
All right, look at that little paragraph there. What words describe Hygid? Look at it.
Thoughtful, young,
Good. Circle them.
generous.
Yeah. Young, generous, thoughtful. Says her manners were sure. So she had again, kind of like Wilfie, the whole package. Now, the narrator is going to tell us about another queen, and that's her picture on the board there. This is Modred. And what we can say about Modred, she's the only character in the story that really changes, becomes better.
What does stinted mean?
Stinted means stop. So it says, and stinted nothing, or she stopped at nothing. She was very generous, handing out gifts. Handing out drinks and stuff. Yeah.
Who drew that?
It was, it was Haley Martin several years ago. I forgot who it was.
She drew that?
That's perfect.
She did?
She's older.
I love it because you can't tell.
In the show, that lady, she's supposed to be like the evil queen, so that's like a heart in her hand, because she like crushes the hearts. It's from a show called Once Upon a Time.
Oh.
I've seen that show.
What's it called?
Once Upon a Time.
That was based on what?
So it's just based on all these like, Disney movies.
Oh, yeah, wasn't that like a
stories, fairy
musical?
tales. It's supposed to be really
With
fun
like
show.
twisted,
Wasn't that the
twist.
All right, very good. I didn't know that.
It's a good show.
All right.
Kinda dark though.
All right, so we'll go to Queen Modred and Charlotte. Over here. Sure.
Part of it was good.
All right, listen, she's gonna be reading.
Wait, how do you pronounce?
Modred. I say it like it's a D. Modred.
Okay. Great Queen Modred perpetrated terrible wrongs. If any retainer ever made bold to look her in the face, if an eye, not her lord's, stared at her directly during daylight, the outcome was sealed. He was kept bound in hand-tightening shackles, raped, tortured until doom was pronounced. Death by the sword, slash of blade, blood gush and death poems, and an evil display.
Read one more sentence.
One more sentence.
Or one more, yeah, I'll tell you when to stop.
Okay. Even a queen outstanding in beauty must not overstep like that. A queen must leave peace, not punish the innocent with loss of life or imagined insults. But he means Kingsman put a halt to her ways, and drinkers round the table had another tale.
Okay, so that tells us what Modred was like at the beginning. So what words describe her?
She was,
Portrayed terrible.
She did what?
Portrayed terrible wrongs.
All right, we don't know what that is at first, but then she tells us, but she was a perpetrator of wrongs. Like, what did she do?
she like killed people if they looked at her.
Right. She had all sorts of power, unlimited power, and if she didn't like the way somebody was looking at her, she would have them tortured and killed. That's a terrible person, but she doesn't stay that way. So I'm gonna ask Ben to read at that point. She was less of a bane. And she got married. That's the change that happened. What does it do for her?
She was less of a bane to people's lives, less cruel-minded after she was married to the brave Appa. A bride arrayed in her gold finery, given away by a caring father, ferried to her young prince over dim seas. In days to come, she would grace the throne and grow famous for her good deeds and conduct of life. Her high devotion to the hero king, who was the best king, it has been said, between the two seas or anywhere else on the face of the earth. Appa was honored far and wide in his generous ways, his fighting spirit, and his far-seeing defense of his homeland. From him there sprang Eomer, Garmund's grandson, kingsman of Hemming. his warrior's mainstay and master of the field.
Alright, so what changed her? Marriage changed her. And it says she became as famous for doing good things as she was infamous for doing bad things. She was famous in a bad way until she got married. So this is an example of a marriage that, I don't know if it's a political marriage, they probably didn't know each other. So this turned out very well, but they don't always turn out well, yes.
There's a question, the answer for the page. It says, what is the purpose of mentioning Twain Monsters at this point in the story?
In general, any of these are called interludes. Any of these interludes make some comment about something going on in the story. All right, so we've seen two good queens. We've seen Wilthiel and Hygiene. And then we see a bad queen. So those two things put back to back kind of highlight what's a good queen, what's a bad
So
queen.
you're basically comparing contrast.
Yes, exactly. That's one of the purposes of all of them. In fact, it seems to be the main purpose of all of these digressions is contrast. But she changes. So what's the other thing about this?
The other one's gonna turn bad.
Well, what I mean is, it is an example of marriage. And in this case, remember, Hildebert and Finn. Remember how that turned out? They called it the Frisian slaughter. That's not really a theme you want for a wedding. Let's have a Frisian slaughter theme. You know the one where everybody got killed? Yeah, let's do that thing when we get married. So that's a bad marriage because it caused people to die. Any marriage that it results in death is a bad marriage, right? As a direct result of the marriage. But here's a marriage that turns out well. She actually is a better person.
So she becomes a good queen.
Yeah, she becomes a good one. She becomes famous for being a good one. And so you ask, what's the purpose? It shows you marriage, good ones and bad ones, and it shows you queens, good queens and bad queens. And she's really the only bad queen. There are other queens that get into bad marriages, but it's not necessarily their fault. So we'll go to Amelia.
Hero Beowulf and his band of men crossed the wide strand, striding along the sandy foreshore. The sun shone, the world's candle warmed them from the south. As they hastened to where, as all they had heard, the young king,
Ongenthau,
his killer, and his people's protector, was dispensing reins inside his
Vaughn. It seemed like a palace, the name of the palace.
Beowulf's return was reported to Hygelac as soon as possible. News that the captain was now in enclosure, his battle brother back from the fray alive and well, walking to the hall. Room was quickly made on the king's orders, and the troops filed across the cleared floor.
Okay, circle the word battle brothers. Find it? It's right near the end of what she just read. Brothers. All right, that is a kenning, Kenning. Anywhere you see those hyphenated words, it's a literary device called a kenning, and they're used all over the place here. In fact, there are 3 on this one page. Battle brother, all-seeing, and seeing. Farseeing. Okay, so those are, anytime you see it, it's real simple, there's nothing complicated about it. Battle brother, and particularly, Seeing.
And what's the other one?
Well, it says farseeing, that is a kenning. Kennings are usually nouns, this is an adjective.
There's another one, meat junk. I don't know if it's.
Yep, whenever you see it, it's real simple, it's just any hyphenated word. And it's a common part of this writer's style. All right, we'll go to Jacob.
After Hygelus had offered greetings to his royal family in lofty speech, he and his kinsman, that hale survivor, sat face to face. Beowulf's daughter moved about, taking the jug in her hand, taking care of the company, filling the cups that the warriors had filled. Then Hygelus began to put
Courteous.
courteous questions to his old comrade in a high hall. He hungered to know every tale the sea beast had to tell.
So you see, they're having celebration, they're having a feast, now they're gonna have the storytelling, and then there's gonna be gift giving. Those three elements are part of all these festivities, yeah.
So, do their epic poems, have you ever been writing poems in Old English?
Old English doesn't rhyme.
Okay.
They don't use rhyme in Old English.
So what makes it an epic story, not an epic story?
The length, this is a long book, it's a long narrative poem.
What makes it a poem, not just a poem?
You wouldn't have any trouble identifying that as poetry, would you?
The way it's on the one side and
Yeah, that's one of the easiest things you could ever figure. Is this a poem or is this a novel? The novel wasn't invented until the 1700s. Poetry goes back to the Bible, to the time of David. David wrote the Psalms. So there's poetry. That is the oldest form of writing. And epic poetry are these big stories about big men doing big things. All right. Well, you're next. You're the next.
Oh, that's first time. Does it start with?
How did you fare? Bottom of page 135.
How did you fare on your foreign voyage, dear Beowulf, when you abruptly decided to sail away across the salt water and fight a peril? Did you help Hrothgar much in the end? Did you ease the prince of his well-known troubles? Your undertaking cast my spirits down. I dreaded the outcome of your expedition, and I pleaded with you long and hard to leave the killer be. Let these stout Danes settle their own blood feud with Grendel. So God be thanked, I am granted this sight of you.
What do you notice about Hrothgar's tone of voice there? Did you help Hrothgar much in the end? Could you ease the prince of his well-known troubles?
He's very
He's kind of
interested.
accusative once in a while.
He is interested, and why do you say
Accusative, he's like, kind of mad at him for going.
Yes, he didn't like that he went, because he likes him. He's his nephew, he didn't want him to die. But notice the question, did you help him much? If you were Beowulf, what would you say? Did you help him much? I mean, were you a little help when you went there? Did you help him a little bit?
Yes.
He was being a little passive aggressive.
It sounds like he's a little sarcastic. Was it a whole complete waste of time? You answer the question. Did Beowulf help Hrothgar much?
He tore Grendel's arm off, so yeah.
He completely got rid of the problem. It took 12 years. Beowulf did it in one night. The night that he got there, they had a party, and here comes Grendel, and it's over. Then the next night, he takes care of the mother, and it's over. So it really takes 2 nights, and he rid Hrothgar of all of his problems. Yeah.
What does this suggest about their relationship?
Well, I thought it sounded like Hrothgar is jealous. Not Hrothgar, but Hygelus is jealous. He said, "Why did you do it for him? I didn't want you to die. They're foreigners. Why did you help a foreigner?" You know, it's kind of like that. And so it sounds like he likes him, but he's a little bit jealous of him.
One thing, does it ever talk about Cain's fate? Like, it never mentions whether or not he died in the Bible. So I don't know if this book talks about that, but, well, they know Cain's out there, he's gonna.
Yeah, they're a little vague, aren't they? A little cloudy about Grendel being Cain's offspring. That doesn't make sense. But yeah, Cain died, as did everybody. Remember, after the garden, everybody dies. You know, every single person, including Jesus, he even died. Yeah, so that's a given. Where are we? Oh, Julie or, okay.
So we're at, Beowulf's son of
Yeah, he's gonna answer that. Did you help him at all?
Oh.
Were you a little bit helpful? Yeah, it sounded a little sarcastic to me.
Beowulf, son of Beowulf, spoke. What happened, Lord Hygelak, is hardly a secret anymore among men in this world. Myself and Grendel, coming to grips on the very spot where you visited destruction on the victory shieldings and violated life and limb, losses I avenged, so no earthly offspring of Grendel's need ever boast of that bout before dawn, no matter how long the last of his evil family survives.
Okay, good, have it.
When I first landed, I hastened to the ring hall and saluted Hrothgar. Once he discovered why I had come, the son of the half-Dane sent me immediately to sit with his own sons on the bench. It was a happy gathering. In my whole life, I have never seen me enjoyed more in any hall on earth. Sometimes the queen herself appeared, peace pledged between nations, to hearten the young ones and hand out a torch to a warrior, then take her place.
All right, Dominic?
Sometimes Hrothgar's daughter distributed ale to the older ranks in order upon the benches. I heard the company call her Awara.
Hey, circle her name. It's hard to pronounce, but you can see it. Friwaru. That's Hrothgar's daughter. And Hrothgar's daughter is gonna marry, is engaged to be married. Another wedding. There's another marriage. All right, keep reading.
As she made her rounds presenting men, James and Bull, young bride to be to the gracious Angel.
That's her fiance. He's of a different nationality, tribe, people. He's a Heatherbard. You'll see that name in a minute.
And her gold
Ingeld is his name, yeah.
and her gold trimmed attire. The friend of the shieldings favors her betrothal. The guardian of the kingdom sees good in it and hopes this woman will heal old wounds and grievous feuds. The general of the spear and prompt to retaliate when a prince is killed, no matter how admirable the pride may be.
All right, so I think we have time for Olivia to read this. This is a prediction. This hasn't happened yet. But Beowulf is basically saying, yeah, I don't like it. I don't think it's gonna turn out well. That is Friwaru marrying Ingeld. And he says, this is why. And so he tells this story that hasn't happened. It says, this is what I predict. Something like this is going to happen. So Olivia will finish for us.
These Cavalier guards will be bound to kill their lord Eagle and his royal fame, which walks in without women to the king. They and her at the table being entertained, honored guests of the bitter Vidalia, furnished ring narrow with kit. That was their birthright. When he would keep his eyes, and no longer know the weapons in the shield. When they went down with their beloved comrades, and forfeited their lives. Then an old spearman will speak loud and shrieking, behind lips of enemy that brings alive memories of the massacre. His men were heartened and heart stricken. In the stress of his emotions when he began to test a young man's temper and stir up trouble, spreading lies. Now, my friend, don't you recognize your father's sword, his favorite weapon, the one he wore when he went out in his war mask, hastily on that party bed?
All right, I'm going to summarize this, and we'll finish reading it tomorrow. So this is Beowulf's prediction. He's going to predict that, and remember, the father is getting them married in order to heal some wounds. So it's a political marriage. He says, the day that we have the big party, the wedding, there comes Ingeld, and there comes Friwaru, and some weather bard is going to say, hey, he's an old guy. He's going to talk to a young guy. Hey, see that Dane over there? Look at what he's wearing. He's wearing your father's sword. You know the day they beat us in battle and killed your father? And he's wearing your sword right now. Are you going to put up with that? So Beowulf's predicting that the guy will kill the other guy for his father's sword, and there'll be a bloodbath. And so this hasn't happened yet, but he predicts it will happen. We're moving right along. We have about 30 pages to go.